And we're live. Woohoo! Uh, for those of you who watched this yesterday from the very start, you might remember that I'm going to spend about 10 minutes just kind of talking about a few things. I'm going to read a couple fun things from some books and get things going just as we get everybody on here, because sometimes it's hard to find where you're live and get your screen to stop glitching and to get everything all set up so you can sit here and drink with me and eat, because I can't. We would get really messy if I ate. So I'm going to kill a little time, but I want to start with if I'm glitching. And those of you who were here yesterday might remember, if I'm glitching, like, then restart sometimes will help. You might have to get out of Facebook. You might have to bang your computer on the wall a couple times. If it's your work computer, maybe not bang it on the wall, but it tends to do that. Sometimes Face gets locked up because we're really busy on it now. Everybody's playing on Facebook or working on Facebook. So if you have a problem with that, if you struggle to get back in, I have a couple people helping out there. Wendy Gildersleeve and Diane Garland are out there watching to see who can help or who needs help, as well as Mr. Lucky. So just put a note of help on one of my pages and we'll try to get you over here. Okay, let's get to some fun Dear Asshole letters. Now, as I explained yesterday, and I'll say really quickly again, my oldest sister likes to go to Goodwill and garage sales and all kinds of things. And she finds these wonderful books and she sends them to me. And this is one of them, one of the most recent ones she sent me. And it has some funny little letters. And I thought we'd start spending the first 10 minutes. We'd read a couple Dear Asshole letters so that we can all get this out of our system. And this one I love because I know this has probably happened to you and it's happened to me. It is, Dear Asshole ordering 8 beverages in front of me at the coffee shop. Oh, how I loathe seeing you standing there in front of me with your long list of specialty orders. I order specialty drinks. I'm a pain. Trying to look inconspicuous while feigning interest in that Nora Jones CD. It takes a long time to make a blended coffee beverage, and you just ordered 8. Now I have to stand around with my thumb up my ass for the next 25 minutes, shifting my gaze between the barista's latest piercing and a selection of tacky, overpriced earthenware mugs, just so your lazy coworkers can get their caffeine fix. Bullshit. Thanks for ruining my few precious moments of break time. Here's hoping you hit a pothole on your way back to work and spill coffee all over your ugly cloth interior. You suck. P.S. No one's going to pay you back. P.S. You're being used. I like that one. Next up, this is kind of me. Dear social media obsessed asshole. This is getting out of hand. Yesterday you tweeted your friends on MySpace about the YouTube video on your Tumblr blog. Why did you send me a virtual banana on Facebook? I see you every day. The last time we went out to eat, you spent more time taking photos of your meal than actually eating it. No one needs a 7-page spread of your peanut butter on rye. You're sharing too much at this point. Your friend in Croatia knows more about your ass than your proctologist. Is nothing sacred? Poke. P.S. I unfriended you this morning. That was a good one. That was a good one. Let's see. I've got 2 more left. What time is it? We're about 4 minutes in, so I'm still trying to let everybody in. Hello, Anita. Hello, everybody. I can't look at that. If I start looking at that, we'll never mind. I'm going to go back to reading my Dear Asshole letter. Dear asshole who left dirty dishes in the sink. The sink is starting to look and smell like a high school science fair project, and it's all your fault. This is a shared area, which means you need to clean up after yourself instead of just piling dirty dish on top of dirty dish like some ridiculous game of Jenga. Enough is enough. I'd like to be able to access clean running water without potentially contracting salmonella. Oh, and a special thanks for leaving that steak knife submerged in that cup of stagnant, cloudy liquid. I almost lost a finger. Regards. P.S. It's been 2 weeks. Exactly how much longer does that pot need to soak? On a side note, I once had a job where part of my job was to do the dishes every night for the whole office. Yeah, I can really relate to that Dear Asshole letter. One more here. Dear Asshole, Noisy Neighbor. We got about 30 people. We got a couple more minutes. I'm going to read this last one because this one really cracks me up. Dear asshole noisy neighbor, awful music, people screaming, random animal noises. What the hell are you people doing over there? Running a circus? Enough. No one in the neighborhood signed up to live next door to the fucking Ringling Brothers, so quiet it down. And lower your television. Are you deaf? Just once. I'd like to eat my dinner in peace without the sound of gunfire booming through my kitchen. At the very least, close your windows when you're arguing. I understand a flaccid penis can be traumatic to deal with, but that doesn't mean everyone in the world wants to hear about it. Thanks a lot. P.S. I heard you having sex. You're doing it wrong. That one makes me laugh. Okay. We have about 40 of us here now, and we're about 6 minutes in. So I'm hoping just about everyone's going to be here, but if it's anything like yesterday, we'll have some more come in as we keep going. I will go next to, again, this is a fun little thing my sister sent me, Bubba Speaks. I always have trouble with this. Bubba Speaks, Texas folk sayings, and a lot of times that's what I get when Harvey comes to mind and I need some fun sayings. So I'm going to read just a couple of these, and by the time I'm done here in another minute or so, I think we'll have everybody here that's going to probably show up, and I'll get rolling with Ann Charles Book Club on Nearly Departed in Deadwood and Optical Delusions. So let's see, I've got hungry, the word hungry. Lots of fun sayings, I'll read a couple. The gal eats so much, she stays skinny, just carrying around all that weight. His stomach is so empty, it sounds hollow when you thump it. I'm so hungry I could eat windmill blades. Hungry enough to eat a saddle blanket. I think I've used that one. Hungry as a billy goat in a bare pasture. Hungry enough to eat a cast iron skillet. I'm pretty positive we use that somewhere. Hungry enough to eat a bear with all the hair still on it. That's a good one. I like that one. And playful. Playful as a kitten. Playful as a colt and clover. Playful as a puppy on the porch. Playful as a pet raccoon. That just gives you a couple. He's so stupid he couldn't get pigeons to roost. He was behind the door when brains were passed out. He's about 12 cookies shy of a dozen. He burns green wood for kindling. He ain't got sense enough to poke acorns down a peckerwood hole. And on that note, I think we should get going. So, thank you all for coming and for waiting as we let everybody else come online and join us. Anyone else who joins, they'll just catch up as we go. Like I did yesterday, I have helpers that are sending me questions you guys write to my cell phone here so that I don't have to focus on the screen over there. And I'm supposed to be looking at the green dot, so I'm looking up this time. So we've got some questions coming in. Hi from Michelle from Australia. Wow, we have Australia checking in. I think we have some UK folks too. So hello, and Joanne, you need to get that book. That's a fun book, I agree. So I'm going to go back here, and until I get some more questions, I'm going to start with a few things of my own. Welcome to Ann Charles's book club. Take two. Take two. I think I forgot to put the title. I'll have to do that. We're doing today Nearly Departed in Deadwood. We did it yesterday, but we're going to try to do some different stuff today, talk about different things maybe. And we're also doing Optical Delusions in Deadwood. On a side note, there's a 30-second delay from when I speak and you hear and see. Hopefully my lips are matched to my face, or this is going to get really funny. So if you ask a question, it may take me a little bit to get to it, or whatever happens, it may take a little bit because it's that nice little delay we have. But it means I can fall off the chair and get right back up really quick, and you might not catch it if I'm fast enough. No, I don't think it means that. So let's get started. Okay. Ann Charles Book Club, Nearly Departed in Deadwood. Let's look at, we took these quizzes, and I hope some of you guys had fun taking the Deadwood quizzes that we've been doing. Diane Garland, who does my story world, has been helping me put together these quizzes. She goes in and she comes up with these great questions, and then I take the test. And I'll be honest, on the first test, I missed one. Shh, I know. It kind of scared me. What's that mean about my brain? It's getting really old. I did miss one, and it was a tough one, and it made me feel good that a bunch of you guys missed it too. So I wasn't alone. Diane got me on that one. But these are really fun, and when I do them, when you guys do them, I get these really cool results. You see all those circles, the graphs? Oh yeah, that's fun stuff. You get to go through and look at all the colors. Now, I really don't care. I don't mean I don't care. It's not important if you get them right or wrong. The best part, the thing with the quizzes is that they're fun and you have a good time doing it. And we refresh and remember what happened way back when, because so much has happened in the series. And I'll be honest, when I read through the series and get ready to start a new book, and when I start like Deadwood 11, before I start, I go clear back to book 1 and I read them all again, and I read the shorts and my eyes glaze over, and then I go through a day or so of, I don't think I can do this again. Who wrote all this stuff? Oh boy, am I going to be able to write anything more? I go through the doubts, I call them. And then Mr. Lucky pulls me out from under the bed and says, okay, you've done this before. Every time. You can do this. You've got this. Sit down and start writing. You'll feel better once you get going. And I do. So that's what you guys are kind of doing along with me, is you're going back through and reading the books again, getting it all fresh in your mind, because the goal for me is to have Deadwood 11 out in May. Probably mid to the end of May, just because of the lag time between when I hit the end and all the stuff we do in between to get that thing polished and ready for you. So you can expect it then. But the good news is we have time now to go back and do these quizzes and do the book club and get ready for this book 11, which I can't wait to share with you guys. It's gonna be so fun. And First Draft Crew is really enjoying it. You know, either they're lying like crazy to me or they really mean it, and it's coming out okay. So let's go back to the quizzes. And one of the questions was, where does Addie get Elvis? And you guys, 60% of you guys got this right, which is awesome. I mean, I think you got it right. Yes, you did, 58%. Stolen from a chicken farm. That's right, chicken farm. Now, there really aren't, well, there could be, but that I know, like chicken farms right outside of Deadwood. It's not like on the borders. However, when I was growing up and would go to the Black Hills to spend summers with my mom, who still lives there, we lived up on top of Strawberry Hill, it's a drive. It's not like a little hump. And we lived at the end of the road. You'd go back the dirt road and you end up in Galena. Some of you have heard me mention the town of Galena, a ghost town, but there's still people there. But we lived right at the end where it joins with the main highway, in this little cabin there for a while. And across from us was this campground. And what I had learned long ago was it used to be a chicken farm. And I think it was a chicken ranch. I think it was a real chicken ranch. I don't think it was, anything to do with like Nevada version of a chicken ranch. But so when I had Addie going and this whole scene set up, I thought she gets it from a chicken ranch. I should say ranch instead of farm. We are in South Dakota. So that's kind of where that all came from. I didn't expect like so many things in this series. I did not expect Elvis to be such a thing. It was a chicken. And I loved the visual of Addie riding her bike down the street or sidewalk and Violet chasing her with her car and feathers just flying as she's chasing her child, trying to get her to stop because she has a chicken in her arms. And Violet knows Addie and knows where that chicken's going to end up. So I just thought it was really funny, the idea of these feathers floating, especially when Violet and Doc are, they get Addie stopped and they're standing there talking to her. And Addie's trying to, basically prostitute her mother to Doc, saying, she loves this, she loves Daisy, she likes this, she's single now. So I love the idea of just a chicken feather falling as she spoke. To me, that was just so funny for a scene. I could see it in a movie type of thing. So yeah, Elvis really has become something. Now, Elvis doesn't always hog all the screen time, but she does play a nice role. One of my favorite parts of Elvis is what we'll be talking about in the future is I think it's book 9, when no, that's the cat. But Elvis is part of the whole zoo coming into Violet's bedroom. But that's a future book. We're not supposed to talk about that. We're supposed to talk about book 1 and 2. So that's kind of where Elvis came from. Now, a chicken named Elvis, I don't know, but Violet likes Elvis. So it just seemed like her daughter's pretty smart, and she would know, if I want my mom to let me keep it, then we have Elvis as the name. And that is kind of how the cat, which started out as Checkers, Addie changed Checker's name as well to Bogart because Violet loves Humphrey Bogart. And do you guys remember what the hamster's name is? I can't remember which book that's in. Maybe it's in 2. But she names the hamster, that's right, for those of you who guessed it, the Duke, after John Wayne. Again, one of Violet's favorites. So Addie is really smart. She knows how to play her mother and try to get things so her mom's not as upset. At least most of the time she does. But Violet has, been with these kids a long time, so she's pretty good. Let's see now if we have any questions before I keep blah, 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 blah about the book. Okay, let me see. Let me read a couple. Patty Finch, can you tell us a few things that surprised you most about optical illusion? Oh, cool. We can jump over to optical, and we'll go back and forth between these books. So what surprised me the most about optical delusions in Deadwood? That book, it is one of my favorites. It really is. I really love the play between Violet and Lila, and I think I talked about that a little bit yesterday, so I won't go on and on about that. But what surprised me, I think, the most was Prudence. I did not expect Prudence to, when I first wrote that story, Prudence was just a ghost that was in the Carhart house. And I liked the name Prudence, and I liked kind of the backstory that Doc finds out when she goes, he switches places with her. And I was really drawn to Prudence right out of the gate as the ghost. So I didn't, I'll be honest with you, at first, when I first wrote that book, and I mean first draft, Prudence was just a ghost. She was not what she is now. And I won't say that just in case somebody hasn't read the others, but she was just a ghost. And she was still pretty badass. She's still mouthy and tough in my mind, but she wasn't what she is now. She has grown for me immensely, and I love her. Prudence is one of my favorite characters now. I know a lot of you probably I think my mom always says, Prudence is such a bitch. Yeah, my mom says the B word about Prudence. That's how much she doesn't like her. My mom, she doesn't cuss that often, but she does call Prudence that. She also says mean things about Rex and Ray and Dominic too, I believe. But she really says bad stuff about, my sister. No, wasn't supposed to say that. I'm kidding. She doesn't. She says bad stuff about Prudence because Prudence is she's such a wonderful character to write. And she gets such little screen time. So I will give you guys a hint. If you read the Deadwood Undertaker series, Prudence is really going to get more screen time because Prudence was alive then. So we get to see that woman in all her wowzer, all her strength, everything. She is just turned full on, high volume, amazing. So I hope you check out that series as well, because that really ties in with this series as it keeps going and makes it for a lot of fun. For those of you who like to have the crossovers and, get more details and the backstory, that's all the backstory of what happened to Deadwood before Violet had to come in and start messing with this crap. Then you see what was going on then. And then you understand a little bit more why Prudence is so pissed off all the time at Violet. Not that it's fair to Violet. She wasn't even close to being born, but okay, so that's one of those questions. Sorry, I went on a little bit, but I like to go on in tangents, and a lot of times we'll end up way over there, and then we'll have to rein it back in. So expect that. Let's see, another question here. Let me see, I've got a couple over here. Sorry, I'm going back and forth. I started rereading today, and I completely forgot the first thing Harvey thought Violet was there for was because of his gambling problem. Was any more ever said of this? That's from Joanne. So that's in book 1 when Violet is first standing on Harvey's porch and she meets him and he talks about, he thought she was there because of his gambling problem. No, not really, because he doesn't, it's not a real big gambling problem. It's just he likes to go. It's more of a woman problem for Harvey. And gambling's just part of that little vice of his. So no, nothing more is ever said of that. It's just kind of a intro to the Harvey that was before Violet came along. He didn't lose. He's not losing his ranch. He wants to sell it because he wants to move to town. He's so lonely out there. And he talks about that. And even more so as the series goes on, and he's spending time with, Violet, and he's spending time with all these new friends, and Cooper, his nephew, he really doesn't want to be way out there. Plus, as those of you know, his ranch is right there by Slagton, which has got a lot of creepy things going on back there. So thank you, Joanne, for that question. That's a good one. What kind of TV does Aunt Zoe have in the living room? Did you ever say, is it an old box or a flat screen? Thank you, Heather. I've not thought about that. I would assume it's a flat screen. Zoe has a crappy old couch, but she does have a decent TV. I don't think it's the old box. But again, TV's not real important. However, ever since those kids moved in with her, and Violet moved in, Aunt Zoe, her home life has done a total shift, because now she's got family there all the time, and she's got young kids, and she's hanging out. So, the change that Violet brought for Aunt Zoe, you can imagine it's got its highs and lows, because those twins do like to fight. They bicker, and you have to referee them. But on the other hand, kids are a lot of fun, and kids can bring new life into your house in a way you never expected. So I always think it's kind of fun to think of it from Aunt Zoe's, point of view. And if Violet ever thought about leaving, I don't know, seriously thought about moving out, I think Aunt Zoe would be a little sad. Let's see. What made you decide to make Violet's hair crazy? It is so funny how sensitive she is about it. I grew up with a girl back home, went to school all through school and high school, and she had super curly hair. I always thought it was the coolest hair because it was just so curly, and she hated it. Oh, she would just drive her nuts because she, you can't control it. It's all over. But to me, I had mostly straight, little bit wavy hair, and I just thought, wow, that curly hair is so cool. So when I thought about Violet, I just thought, her life is so crazy. She needs hair that really expresses the craziness and kind of shows what's going on in her head. A lot of times I use the hair to show something about how she's feeling. It could be all nice and neat, and so she's all got herself ready to go, or it could be sticking out all over, and Harvey makes a comment about it. It's wonderful hair. I'm envious of all those curls. Let's see what else I have here. Do you ever look back at a character and wish you'd made them somewhat different? That's Terry from Canada. Thank you, Terry, for coming. Do I ever wish I'd made them different? There's a real danger in going back and rereading your first stuff if you start thinking about editing. And a lot of people will tell you, a lot of authors will say, don't touch it. Don't go back and change anything, because there's a freshness that was there from the start. And if you start mucking with stuff, you take away that freshness, again, is the word that comes to mind. You take away that raw, amazing thing that you first did. Okay, so maybe it wasn't amazing, but you take away that beautiful piece of art, and then you start over sculpting. So one of the things that when I go back through and I read book one again and again and again, there are some things that I think, oh, I wish I wouldn't have written that way. Oh, I wish I didn't have that. And I'm not going to tell you, because if I tell you, it's going to drive you nuts, just like it drives me nuts. So I can't tell you. But I will say that there are some things, some lines, and some ways sometimes people react that I wouldn't mind tweaking just a little, but I won't. I will not go back and do that, because I think it's dangerous. Well, dangerous is really a silly word, but I don't think it's good for the story or the series. So I'm just going to let that thing go. And when I read it and I wince about it, I just think, you were only so far into your career then. So it's really cool to see how I've changed as a writer as the series goes. And boy, oh boy, did that take a long time for me to answer that question. Let's move on. Anita, I love Prudence. I enjoy the different ways she communicates with Violet. Me too. I love it when she beats up Violet. I have to admit, I love to torture Violet. She's so fun to have things happen to her because of the way she reacts. She just, she's great. She's so emotive, and especially Prudence is she scares her a lot initially, especially because she's creepy. I mean, she's a ghost that messes with you. But on the other hand, man, Prudence she just comes slamming in, and you just, you're just waiting, I think, every time Prudence is on scene with Violet to see what she does to Violet next. So thank you for that, Nita. Is Sligton based on a real ghost town? That's Joanne. And there are several ghost towns back in the Black Hills, back dirt roads, several different ones that I've explored as a kid and an adult. So I think it's kind of a bunch of them grouped together, different things I loved about them. To skip forward, the cover of book 9 has that old blue car, and that car is actually in a ghost town back in the hills. It's a real car that's sitting there in the town of Tinton. I think that might be going away, unfortunately. They might be, for insurance reasons or something, it seems like I heard, they're going to try to just eliminate Tinton, which makes me sad because I've spent so much time there in the way past. When I was a kid, we would drive out there and see it. So that is actually from that town. There are so many, so many places I explored as a kid, so many ghost towns that all that were left was foundations. So you could sit there and try to imagine, there were, 20 different foundations next to this creek, and you can imagine what life was like, which was one of my favorite things to do as a kid. Go sit there on a nice, warm, sunny day and drink my water I brought along and eat a lunch I packed and just pretend and imagine what happened back here. So it's really a group of things. Plus, it's just creepy. I like to, Slagton's a wonderful place that I can make super creepy. I often refer to The Hills That Have Eyes, that show, and I've only seen a little of that show because it's creepy. So I kind of feel like Slagton's that. Let's see. Will Violet ever read The Executioner Diary? Teresa, you'll have to wait and see on that one. It's coming. It's coming. But that's way in the future, so I can't answer much about that. But thank you for that question, Teresa. Did Zoe let Violet and the kids move in because she knew she needed to protect and train her? Yeah, and that's something, Joanne, that we learn later on. So at this point in book 1 and 2, she's letting her move in, yes, behind the scenes. She knows that there's potential for Violet. I don't think Violet has shown signs yet, but Zoe knows there's always the potential for it to come to life at any time. And we'll find out more about how that all went down, I think, as the series keeps going and we keep exploring more about Zoe and all that comes with her. She's got so much history. And then her and Reed, those guys are so fun. Reed was another wonderful kind of surprise in book 2. He just walked on scene there looking all handsome with his dark blue eyes and swagger and his fireman's getup, and I just thought, oh, this guy is great. He's got to stay. So let me go over here. Let me look at another question. That was Joanne. Rebecca Klein, book 2 made me so frustrated with Violet for lying to Natalie. I'm glad that didn't go on too long. Yes, I agree. I felt bad because Violet so wanted to tell her, but then was so afraid to tell her. And when I was writing that, I knew that I could not keep that going for too long because it's not something that I love to read about. I don't like triangles. I don't like all the problems that come with triangles. And I tell you that because, oh my, for the longest time, several books, and it was probably not until book 6 maybe that people would write to me and say, is it going to be a love triangle with Violet and Cooper and Doc? And I could have been a big mysterious author and said, I don't know, we'll see. But no, I said, no, it's not going to happen. And then another person would write or say, I really hope there's a love triangle. And I'd say, it's not going to happen. I can't handle love triangles. They make me feel so bad for the loser that I might finish the book and think, oh, it was a happy ending, but my heart is broken for the one that got left out. So I don't like love triangles for that reason myself, and so I didn't want to write that. I mean, I feel so bad for losers. Some of you may know this, but my favorite football team is the Cleveland Browns, and we all know When have the Cleveland Browns ever made it to the Super Bowl? I know they were back in before we had the Super Bowl, but in what, 50 years? None. But I love them, and I won't root for another team because I feel bad for the Cleveland Browns. And someday they're going to do it. Let's hope in my lifetime that someday they're going to make it. And then it'll be the happiest ever ending there could be in sports world for me. So there you go. That's more than you wanted to know, Rebecca, but there you go. Does Violet ever sit her kids down and talk about what can happen in their future, especially Lane, and read the family book? Anita, that's a really good question, but we kind of got to hold on to that one for a couple book clubs because that plays more in the future. In book 1 and 2, I don't think we know about the books yet. No, we do not know about them yet. So I want you to hold on to that question and come back around when we reach that book. And I think it'll be like in the 7s, 8s, 9s, somewhere in there. And certainly if we talk about the shorts, which we're probably going to have a book club on the different shorts, and we hit Fatal Traditions, that's a really good one for that. Oh, but thank you for that question. Let's see, what else do I have? Do you develop the characters before you make up the storyline? Or do you think up the story first and the characters come along after? That's Suzette Carp. Thank you, Suzette. Do I develop the characters before I make the storyline? Well, it's a mix. Before I started Nearly Departed, and you can find these, I did this interview. I did an interview of Violet. And then I think I did interviews of Doc as well. And was it Natalie? Oh, maybe, no, it wasn't Harvey. Maybe it was just Violet. So I wanted to get to know her. So I did this interview before I even started writing Nearly Departed in Deadwood. It was something way back when that, they were telling us authors to do these huge charts of all these details, like what color, what's her favorite color? What color are her eyes? What color is her hair? What's her favorite smell? What's her perfume? They told us to do all this stuff. And so I think I did a lot of it, but then I got bored. And then I started thinking, boy, if I do all this, then it's not going to be any fun when I write it. So I kind of paused on that. And I decided to just dig into the book. So Violet, we knew, and I knew Aunt Zoe. I knew she had the twins. I knew Doc was the hero. And I knew Wolfgang was the fake, the red herring. So I kind of had those guys fleshed out. Harvey, and I mentioned this in yesterday's, if you listened, I had no idea about Harvey. He came on scene with the gun as soon as I wrote, the first time I came to Deadwood, I got shot in the ass. Here comes Harvey, he's holding the double barrels. And I thought, who's this guy? Oh my. And I finished chapter 1 and that was it. I knew Harvey was there to stay. And he just kept, I'd write a scene and I'd go, Harvey needs to come back on now. So that kind of, is how some of the characters, same thing with, and we'll talk about in book 3 next time, Cornelius Curion. He was similar for that too. So I do try to plan some characters, but then I have room for more to come in because I like to leave it open. Kind of feels like I'm walking through the story and Violet's telling me, and then I'm going, oh, look at that. Who's that? What's this guy doing? So it makes it more fun for me to put it on the page if I don't overdevelop things. And certainly some characters are total surprises and amazing. There are characters like, let's take Cooper, who shows up at the end of 1 briefly. I think he just talks to her on the phone. And then he's definitely there in book 2. Cooper was just, Harvey's nephew at the end of book 1 when I wrote that way back when. But I wrote that scene and I liked Cooper right out of the gate. And I thought, oh, we need to keep Detective Cooper because there's something here. And as you know, there's a lot there. I mean, as the time goes, and I won't go into a lot of depth on this, but as the time continues, to me, when I write Violet and Cooper, when they're butting heads together, it's awesome to write. Those two are so fun. And for a while people would say, oh, the sexual chemistry. For me, there was none. There has never been sexual chemistry for Cooper and Violet. For me, when I'm writing it, they're like brother and sister. I mean, just very alpha. And they're just both gonna, and they're relentless that way. And that's where I like Doc to come in because he's always kind of, refereeing. Come on, you two, because he likes Cooper a lot and he likes, of course, Violet. So it's really fun to have those two going at it. And one of my favorite scenes is, I don't think it's a future one, where Doc has to actually lift Violet and carry her out of Cooper's office because she's going off on Cooper so bad. Anyway, I got to get back to the questions. Let's see. Sorry, I got to scroll backwards just a minute. Do you develop, Joanne? It just flipped forward. Besides Prudence, has there been any other characters that started out as a small character that developed more than you expected? As I said, Harvey and Cooper, Joanne. That's a good question. Those guys really came out more. Reed as well. Reed was just this handsome fireman that walked up, you know, the fire captain, and he really became something I didn't expect. And he's a lot of fun. I love Reed. So yeah, there have been several that have done that for me. Let's see. That was Joanne. Gail Mathers. Is Doc there to help her grow into her main business? I'm not sure what you mean by main business. Do you mean like what she can be paranormally, or maybe what, you know, I don't know, I guess realtor. I would think you mean her paranormal abilities. And in that way, yes, I think they're there to grow together. They're drawn together for that. Tara says, I'm fascinated by the Mirror and Aunt Zoe's workshop. Will you find out more about that? Tara, are you looking into my computer when I'm writing? Because yes, there will be. There's more to come. It's getting better and better. So hold on to that thought. I think you're going to enjoy what starts happening. Here's a little note. When I mention something in a story, I call it, I shotguns on the shelf, branding irons in the fire, whatever you want to call it. I very rarely mention something that doesn't have a purpose somewhere down the line. Now, if you want to talk about Harvey's beard catching on fire, because I think was it Cherry's Jubilee, Baked Alaska, something. No, there's not gonna be a fire in the future based on Baked Alaska or whatever I did. But when there's key things like the mirror and different things that you learn about, a lot of times that's gonna come back. And that's what's wonderful about writing this series, and any series like this, where it's not every book ends and it's a whole new set of characters, maybe, with just a flashback of the others. When it's a series like this, where it's the same crew only building, I get to have so much fun by planting seeds throughout books and then letting them grow slowly and then coming back and revisiting that. I have such a great time with that. It makes writing more fun for me because it's a big puzzle, a big challenge. And I'm hoping it's fun for you guys too. If you were to start and read the whole things through again, you'll see now that if you've already read it once and then you go back, then you can really see the things I've been planting for years. I mean, I started this, but I wrote the first one in 2009, I think, 2008. So you can go back and see stuff from way back then that I planted that I'm still pulling threads in and using and doing. And a big part, very helpful with that is Diane Garland, who's helping me with these quizzes we're doing, and she's helping today in that she does my story world keeping. So we have this big OneNote file that's gargantuan. It has all the details you could ever imagine in it, and like eye color, vehicles, things that have happened, ghosts that have come, seances and what happened in the seance. Diane goes through my book after I'm done and I'm published, and she just fills out these massive charts that add to the previous. So we've got all the books and the shorts for the Deadwood series in one huge file that I can just go reference constantly and pull all this stuff out. And that is key. If you ever want to try this as an author, you really have to keep track, because this stuff gets really crazy after about book 3 or 4 when you're trying to keep all this much, these many details. And if you're getting older, like me, and you have 2 children that are getting older and pulling into your brain, so you really have to keep track. So I've just went way off. We got to pull it back, and let's go back to this. I'm going to go to a more recent one. Michelle Davis, who was the pregnant woman with Lila in Charles Club? Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I think we learn. Do we learn in book 2? I believe at the end of book 2 with Lila, we learn when they're going to sacrifice Violet to, be implanted. or have a demon put his seed inside of her, that the first one didn't go well. And that is your clue. And I can't remember if I've said more about that in another book, but the pregnant woman was the first that had the demon seed inside her, and it didn't go well. So the next was going to be Violet. There, but thankfully, that never happened. So that's kind of a fun one, Michelle. Thanks for asking that. Let me go back, and I'm getting behind. If I skip one of your questions, I'm sorry. You can way later. You can ask me privately. Send me a message, and I'll try to get back with you. But I am writing today. I'm trying to get book 11 done in time. So if I don't answer you right away, give me a little bit of time because I want to get that. So let's go to the next one. You guys are asking these awesome questions. Let me find where I'm at here. Sorry. Vicky Husky, did Harvey ever have a day job? Well, he was a rancher for a long time. You know, back in the days when you could make a living off ranching, Harvey was there doing that. He had plenty of cows out there. And since, you know, his ranch has been passed down for generations, it's not like he, you know, had to worry too much about the ranch. He had most of that. So for the most part, that was his day job. And I think he was getting into a lot of trouble. To be honest, with Mr. Lucky, we have contemplating writing a book about Harvey's life pre-Violet, and it'd be like a series of short stories, the adventures he's had. However, we kind of got a lot of stuff going on already. And Mr. Lucky is working on the Undertaker series. So that is kind of keeping us a little bit busy. But someday, maybe I can write some tales about Harvey so you can kind of learn all the trouble he's gotten into. That's a good question. Let's see, what else do I have here? Do you think that these creatures you have created could actually exist in the world? This is from Gail again. Thank you, Gail. Well, I hope not. Ew. Some of these creatures are really spooky. I certainly wouldn't want to come across some of these things in the real world. But you know, I pull a lot from mythology, German folklore, all kinds of good stuff like that I'll dig through, and I'll find these stories that make me want to explore them further. So it's really fun to go back and read about all this stuff, the stories, the mythology, the tales handed down, and then bring a creature to life within poor Violet's world. So, but for the most part, I hope there's no cure cause out there. He's creepy. Michelle Davis, oh, I answered that one. Heather, if Hollywood ever came to you wanting to make the book into a TV series, would you jump to it or say no? That's a really good question. I've thought about that, of course. I've daydreamed. Would it be good? Would it be bad? I would want to know. See, I think they'd kick me out because they'd go, you know what? You're already thinking too much about it, Anne. No, you can't do it. Forget it. We're going to go to the next person. You should have jumped and said yes. But to be honest, I've watched things tank. I've watched series where people have been excited about their book going to a series, and Hollywood doesn't, and maybe they don't choose the right actress for the part or actor. And it's really hard to take what's in a book, I think, and make it into a successful show. Now, I think a series has more potential, definitely, because you can take your time. I mean, one book could be a whole, 6 episodes or something. So you don't have to rush it into one movie, which I think is better. And Netflix and those guys are really great about it. Some of their series are awesome. So I think I would definitely consider it. And especially, I used to say, I don't want to even think about that till I'm 10 books in, because what I learned about the Game of Thrones author, he was not able to keep up with the series. And then he started getting all kinds of hate mail and angry people because they wanted his book, hurry up. And nothing takes the fun out of writing like that. Geez, when you're getting threats constantly. So I always thought I need to be much further in so that if they come knocking, there's enough story there to keep Hollywood or whatever the series busy while I could keep writing into the future. And the other thing is I wanted to be far enough in the future so that if it happened, I wouldn't get stuck only writing Deadwood for the next 10 years, because as much as I love being in Violet's head and hanging out in Deadwood, I love taking breaks and joining the Morgan sisters down in Arizona. And I love to go down with Quint to the Yucatan. So writing different series is really necessary for my brain so I don't get bored with this and start burning out, because burnout is a real problem. And it's become more of a problem these days with authors and many of my author friends, because we push so hard and we try to get 4 books out a year, which was crazy 15 years ago, but we want to keep going and get these series really going. So I really work at not burning out, and that takes diversifying the stories that come out of my head. So there's my really, really, really long answer, Heather, to that question, and thank you for it. Anita, do we ever find out about the ear and the foot? You do. You find out more. It's in one of the books, and I can't remember right now. But in coming up in the between 5 and 10, there's more about the ear and the foot. There's a little bit more. So it's still coming. Like I said, I mentioned it, so it's still coming. It's out there. Barbara West Guy. Was Harvey ever married? No, he's never been yoked, as he likes to say. So yeah, he has not been married. And later in the series, I think a couple times Violet asks him because she loves his cooking, and no, he's not the marrying kind of guy. So let me see. I missed this one from Donald. Let me see if I can do this. Violet and Coop seem more like confrontational brothers and sister. Yes. Does he stay in Violet's life more than absolutely necessary because he wants to stay closer, or Natalie, or is he just a glutton for punishment? Well, Natalie, that's kind of a secret still to come. However, because most of you guys have already read it, we don't have to worry too much about that. But yes, he has a crush on Natalie right out of the gate. You just don't see it because Cooper's not one to wear his emotions on his sleeves. But he does not stay in Violet's life necessarily because he's wants to stay closer. He likes Doc. He really is. There's a bromance there, if you will. He really likes Doc's company, and unfortunately for him, Doc is attached to Violet for the most part. So that means by being around Doc, he has to put up with Violet. And also his uncle is Violet's bodyguard, self-proclaimed, and so he likes he wants to be around his uncle. Then he has to deal with Sparky, as Harvey likes to call her, and experience, and put up with her more then. And then the worst part of it is he has to deal with Violet because she keeps being some part of these crimes that keep happening. They keep coming back to her. Either she knows something or she was somehow involved. So Cooper's constantly pulled into, here's Violet Parker again coming in. So yeah, I think that's more he likes, and he's pulled in by everything around her. And she's just like the middle of the tornado, the eye of the hurricane type of thing, or whatever you want to call it, sucking him in and everyone else and into her crazy stuff. Okay, let's see if I found out something else. Did you pick Ashley Carr? I think this is your question. Did you pick Carolyn Schaefer to read your books for the audiobooks? Hey, that's a great question. I don't think I've ever had anyone ask me that. Yes, I did. What happened was I started seeking a company to work as the middleman, which is, I have a middleman I work with, a company. And then they sent me several potential narrators, and I listened to them. And, it's really, really awkward to listen to your words that you wrote from your head be read back to you. It's especially if they don't read them quite the way they came out of your head, then it sounds, it's like having tennis shoes in your washing machine, clunk, 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 or your dryer, clunk, clunk, and you think, I can't handle that very long. So I listened to about 4, and they were good narrators. They were, but they weren't Violet for me. And so I said no, and I went out and they said, well, go listen to a few, samples out there on Amazon. So I did, and one of them I listened to was, I can't ever remember. Is it Gemma Halliday or Gemma? I think she says Jim. Anyway, she had Carolyn Schaefer for one of her series. It's something with high heels, I think. And I listened and I loved it. She was so good. And I thought, this is Violet. This is the one. So I told this middleman company that I use about it, that I wanted this particular narrator. And they said, oh boy, well, we have to see if we can even get her. So they went through the company that Carolyn works with. It's another middleman. So it's us two and then middlemen in the middle. And everybody started talking and Carolyn agreed. And so then she read for me, one of them, read, a few pages, and I listened and I said, oh yeah, that is Violet for me. She's amazing. I had no idea that Carolyn would be so amazing with the other characters. I love when she does kids, when she does Addie and Lane, and she does the little kid voice. And what really, she gives me chills when she does like future books. She does Violet's grandmother, great grandmother, up in the attic with the runestones clacking, and she does the voice. And when she does that, it gives me the chills. So yeah, I picked Carolyn that way, and she agreed. So it was a mutual thing, and it's been wonderful ever since. And she just keeps going for me. Now, Lisa Larson does my Deadwood shorts because Carolyn is more, like I said, there's a lot of middlemen and a lot more to get into it, where Lisa I work directly with, and Lisa does a lot of my other books too. And Lisa she's really cool because she'll listen to the other Deadwood stuff, and then when she does my shorts, she tries to do her voice similar to Carolyn's for you guys, so that it's not so jarring when you listen to the other series, which is really cool of her. She could have been all, I'm going to read it this way, but she's not. Lisa's not like that. Lisa's just amazing, and she wants to do whatever she can to make readers, or listeners, I guess, happy. So thank you for that question. That was a good one. Let's see if I missed something else here. Sorry, I should hold it up when I read so I'm not looking down. This is from Rebecca Klein, thank you. I like Coop and Doc together. Doc humanized Coop, and it's nice for Doc to have a normal friend after drifting through life before Deadwood. I agree. I really like those two together. I think they're fun. And I like the way they pick at each other. They have a really good relationship. And yet, Cooper, Violet drives him nuts, but Doc handles that so well with having a friend and a girlfriend that are at odds. I mean, I'm sure we've all dealt with that in some ways, and it's not always smooth, and it can be really stressful, especially when Violet and Cooper just start yelling at each other. I mean, it's just like, wow, and Doc has to step in, and I just love that. And later on, of course, we've got the whole Addams family thing, which I won't go into. That I just love Doc and Vi and Coop when it comes to the whole Gomez and Tish. So thank you for that question, or that comment, Rebecca. That was great. Lori, you're here. Hi, Lori. Thanks for coming. I know you had taxes, so that's tough. Have you ever had a ghostly encounter? Well, Lori, weren't you there with me in the brothel that haunted night, or the haunted brothel that night? I think you were. Yes. But no, and I didn't see anything. I don't know if you did, but I didn't really get to see anything. I have not really. Now, I can tell you that I see stuff out of the corner of my eye a lot here at home, but I think maybe it's just stress that makes me have like weird visions, or it's the cats. I think it's the cats. My cats like to mess with me and knock stuff over then. I see things out of this when I'm writing at night and I'm all alone, and I see something here, and I've had where I see someone sitting there, and it freaks me out a little bit. But I don't know if that's my imagination just going, all out, or if I see something. So I don't know. I once was told a couple fan parties ago by a guy that's a medium, and he's been on TV. He's really fun. He's very interesting. He told me that my grandma hangs out with me, and she watches over me. And if so, that was the grandma that took me bowling at age 5 with her and her bowling pals. So if that's who hangs around with me, then that's really cool. But if not, I don't know. I'd be kind of bummed, because I've gotten to where I talk to her, and our family, my kids will say, thanks, Grandma. And we all kind of talk to her. So if she's not really there, then we're just all a little crazy. That could be. So no ghostly encounters officially. But again, I think I'm a dud, a little bit like Violet. So let's see. Let's go back down. Sorry, you guys. Do the Mutter brothers know these guys aren't real people, but other world? That's Gail. I think Eddie knows something. And George Mutter. We'll get more into that, Gail, with the next book, because book 3 is when we go to the Mutter brothers and we really start hanging out. I know we did a little bit, though, in book 2, so it's a good question. George is working with someone. I mean, George, as we find out, is in deep with someone. So I think the Mutter brothers believe that they are not human. I think they kind of know, especially George and what he's experienced. Michelle, do we ever find out where Doc lived before he moved to Deadwood? You know, if I ever write Doc's backstory, maybe, but I can tell you he was a drifter. You know, I think I say in another book, book 4, is it, where he started out in Colorado as a kid, and his parents died young, and he grew up with his grandfather. But from then through college, after college, he drifted for a good, I think, 15 years or so. He just drifted and did different things. And there's a lot of story in there, of course, but nothing that I've put on the page so far. And Doc's kind of secretive. He's not the easiest. Him and Cooper, man, those guys, when I try to dig in and say, tell me more about this, they do not tell me many things. I have to really pry. They're real pains that way. I get more from Harvey about Cooper than Cooper ever tells me about his own world. And that makes me sound crazy, but that's the way it goes in my head. Do you own the Plum Jeep that I have seen at the RC airport, Rapid City Airport, from time to time? I think that's RC. There was a reference to a Plum Crazy Jeep in one of your books. Plum Crazy is a color. I once had a motorcycle, a Harley, that was Plum Crazy purple. It was a beautiful color of purple. That motorcycle, it was an older Harley. It repeatedly left us stranded many, many places. And that was back when I was still living, you know, around my dad in Ohio, which was fortunate because my dad had a flatbed truck. And so he knew when we went riding on it that he needed to have the flatbed empty, because 99%, well, 9 times out of 10, he was going to have to come drive and pick us up somewhere and load up the motorcycle. So, but it was a beautiful motorcycle. That Plum Crazy purple was so pretty. So that's why I referenced that, Gail. Maurice, oh, hi, Mo. Keep doing what you and Sam do. Thank you, Mo. And Mo or Maurice, he's part of the Black Hills Paranormal Investigation team, I think it is, group. Sorry if I ended on that right. But anyway, those guys, for the fan party this summer, fingers crossed, you guys, we get to do this and good old coronavirus or COVID-19 doesn't screw us up. And let me say quickly, if there is a problem, we've already talked about, Sam and I, that, you know, we look at ways to postpone it so we can still do it this year. But I have to wait and see until we get through April, because so much is up in the air right now. And if we don't have to cancel because everything's a little bit under control, then we don't want to, because Deadwood needs us there. I mean, hotels everywhere, you know, are shutting down and people are scrambling. And so if we can go there, I would like to go if we're safe. If it's not going to be safe, then we'll have to postpone it. So, you know, that's something we're all keeping in mind as we go forward. But right now, we're still on for now. So anyway, let's go back to some questions. Wow, there's a bunch more. I'm trying to keep up, you guys. Thank you, Paula Kirby. I know Carolyn does a great job. Lori, is German a second language for you? And is German lore or mythology something you've studied? No and no. But if I could go back in time, I would take German instead of Spanish. Only our school never offered that. And I would study mythology more, because I would need it. And I wouldn't have to spend so much time now reading. I have wonderful help with both Spanish and German, and that is from Vicky Husky. Hello, Vicky. I hope you're here today. And if you're not, and you see her online, tell her she's awesome, because she early on stepped in. She used to be, she just recently retired. She was a Spanish teacher, and she used to teach German. And early on, she stepped in and said, well, you're not quite using this word right, in a very nice way. And I said, oh, you know German? And she said, and Spanish. And I said, you're hired. Poor girl, she works for free. But she has been wonderful and helped me immensely. And Mr. Lucky too, in the Undertaker series, where we have a lot of German and other languages going on. So I've learned a lot about German. and it's complicated language stuff, all the rules, but I still don't know it. There is also a wonderful lady from Germany who's written to me a couple times in the last year and helped me out with some stuff. So she's great too. So I have a lot of help. And, I love it when readers help, and I appreciate it. When I get people that come in and just say, you did this wrong and you did it this way. Yeah, I don't love that so much, even though it might be true. But a lot of times people will offer their help in some way, and they're really cool about it and kind. And then I just feel like, wow, I am so fortunate to have met so many of you guys that support me in different ways and support us in this endeavor that we're doing in different ways. So thank you for that. Okay, another question. Michelle. Oh, we did that one. Gail asked, how does Zoe know what to make to give the guys to keep them safe? That is the magic of Zoe. She, in my mind, we get into this more. That happens more in the future books, so I won't dwell on this. But in my mind, Zoe has this vast knowledge. She's been being trained since a child by her great-grandmother to be what she is now. And so she has a wealth of knowledge. She's, I think she's in her mid-50s. She has all this knowledge that she saved up over time and kept notes, and because she was always supposed to be ready to either hand it down to the next one like her or to teach by, an executioner. So she has all this stored up. And so I think she knows a lot, and I think she has a big wealth of this big dictionary, or this, not a dictionary, a big guide on how to in her head. But at the same time, every executioner experiences different things, and every kill is a little bit different for each executioner because the things evolve that they have to fight, and they evolve. So nothing is the same, which means, you have this rule book, but it's just kind of a guideline. It's not really set on how things are going to be. And so Zoe has to be able to, be flexible with that. I'm supposed to drink. Mr. Lucky just told me to drink. So let me take a drink of water. Okay. Jan Lawrence wrote and said, Mom wants to know if you grew up or lived in Ohio. And I did. I spent part of my time in South Dakota and part of my time in Northwest Ohio. My dad has a farm there and a junkyard. So I got to, oh man, it was fun growing up on that too. I guess they call it used machinery now, lot, or recycling. But when I grew up, we called it a junkyard. And it was so much fun as a kid to grow up there, and I played outside so much. So I did spend a lot of time in Northwest Ohio, and I went to school there, and I actually graduated high school back there. But going back and forth between my parents, because my mom lived in South Dakota by then, and so I would go back and forth between the two. So I really have a home there and in South Dakota. They're both, when I think home, it's a little bit of both. So there's that. Let me see if I have, oh, and Jan, I also wanted to say hi to Doris. Hi, Doris, if you're listening. And one of Doris's favorite quotes, I think it's Harvey, and I meant to look this up and I didn't because I was writing this morning, that Doris loves is, everyone has an opinion and an asshole. And I love that line too. Harvey's got the best stuff, man. He just lays it on the line. He's so fun to write. So I hope you're having a good day, Doris. And thanks, Jan, for the question. Joanne, did Violet's abilities come alive because she met Doc? Wow, I'm having trouble reading. No, actually, Doc was there and it's part of it, but I was thinking about this the other night. I think it's more that, how later on, some of Cooper kind of gets run over by a ghost. If you think about what Violet went through with Wolfgang in that first book, the trauma of waking up in that room with those three little girls, mummified girls basically, with her, tied to a chair, terrified, you're going to get burned up, Wolfgang's psycho. If you think of all that she went through, the trauma, I think in my mind, that is really, she was drawn to Deadwood for some reason. It was time. But then she got woken up maybe. And I think that a lot of times comes for us in ways of extreme stress, extreme, whatever. And I think the good thing about Wolfgang and all that happened was it really woke her up in many ways. But also, things were starting to happen, and she was drawn to Deadwood for a reason. So it's not as easy as like somebody flicked the light switch and all of a sudden Violet had this. It's more a combination of things came together at once. And, you know, Doc was pulled into that as well as others. I mean, if you look at the crew that all comes, here comes Cornelius in book 3. And what is he? Look at what he does. He can do. So everybody's being pulled together. I like the idea for a purpose. There's something that has to be done. And so it's going to take, you know, a team to come together to do this. Whether you want to believe it's higher being bringing it in, or if it's just the way the earth keeps in balance. If you're more into, you know, the earth stays in balance. I guess that's kind of what, it's a mix of everything for me. And it's all just, I don't know. I feel like I'm just rambling now. So let's go on to the next one. Okay. Oh, right. See, Heather, did you plan to keep Doc's X in the books? That's a good question. And we're going to really have fun with the X's in books 5. And while I'm thinking about that answer, Mr. Lucky tells me it is time for a little bit of drink. And I told some of you guys we would drink. So today I got this from, I can't do this in the thing. This is from when I went to Mexico a year or some ago. There we go. Some good stuff. I will say though, and nothing to badmouth these guys, but I got really sick after we had some crab there. So, but the tequila was really good. Just the other part got it bad. So I'm raising my shot to you guys. And if anybody else has drinks, drink up, because we did say we were going to have a little fun and have a drink while we did this. So I want to have a drink to you guys. Thank you for coming today to the book club. We're not done, but I'm going to take a little drink first. That is a lot sweeter than yesterday, which was just plain old tequila. Woo! That's good stuff. Kimberly, are we going to get more details on Coop's scars? Oh, probably. That will come in time. There's a lot of books to come yet. There's a lot of story to be told yet. So, you know, sometimes people want me to wrap a lot of things up in one book, but I don't want to wrap a lot of things up in one book because I want, the story has got a lot to it. This is a big, huge, big series for me. There's a lot of stuff for all of us, I should say. There's a big series arc that I'm following. So there is some method to the madness. And with book 11, I will tell you guys that we are now shifting. If you think of the first 10 books, we really were discovering what Violet is. You know, it was the introduction. It was discovering what was going on and kind of the opening scene for the whole series. And we kind of end with, you know, those first 10 books, kind of a turning point, if you will, of, well, now what? Now Violet's got big problems and she's accepted what she is. So as we move into the next group of books, we see how things are changing for her as she accepts now what she has to do. Will Violet's sister be an executioner, have some partner executioner job? Kimberly, thank you for asking that. Susan is not of the same bloodline. She was another man's kid. So no, Susan has nothing, no executioner like stuff or anything paranormal like that. She is just a royal pain in the ass over and over. But she's really fun to write because I love coming up with the what I want to say, the insults and the way Violet describes her sister's clothing. That makes me laugh. Kimberly also had the question, do the twins know who the father is? No, they do not. He stepped out way back when, so no, they have no clue. And Violet doesn't want to tell them at this point because he wants nothing to do with them and he will not support them. So in her mind, it's just a heartbreaker if she tells them, you know, right out of the gate. That's something that she just doesn't want to, she doesn't want, you know, Rex to have any part of this. Well, this is another question. I'm not sure. Will Clint and the Morgan sister stories cross over into Deadwood story at some point? I'm not sure who is, this is, oh yeah, this is maybe Kimberly again. You need to, I don't know where you're at in the Deadwood series, so I don't want to ruin stuff, but yes, there are many crossovers as you keep going. So there are all kinds of stories. And will their overall stories cross over? There'll be more to come. and excitement to come. Those of you who knows Quint's story, you're seeing what's happening with him down there in Mexico. So, you know, that's something I want to write a bunch more for his stories. But of course, there's only me writing this series, and it takes a little time. Maybe I should be like, gosh, James Patterson. He's got all those people writing for him, and then he does his part in it. And boy, he puts out books like crazy. But I fear that it would no longer be my book then. Let's see. Barbara asked again. Barbara West Guy. Will Quint? Oh yeah, I just answered that. Sorry, Barbara. Susan asked, how many books roughly do I envision? You know, that's, and my husband says, that's a good question. You know, I don't want to put a number on it. At one point, I used to say back at like book 2, well, I can see about 12 out there. I said, I think I would say, I'm going to get to number 12 and then see how it feels. Well, I'm at 11. And I can tell you that there's a lot more. We're past the first turning point, and I kind of feel like we're heading toward the midpoint of the series. So that means there's still a lot to come, good or bad, whether you like it or not. Until this story is told, the overall story, there is a lot to come. There's so many things that I daydream about that are coming. And as we work on the Deadwood Undertaker series, Sam Lucky and I, there's stuff that this wonderful tie-in and crossover stuff that's going to be fun, that we'll continue to see more of. So, you know, and I hope you guys enjoy that too, the clues and everything kind of going around. One thing that was really fun, if you haven't read it yet, but I won't go much into it, but writing Natalie and Cooper and Harvey down in Jackrabbit Junction for In Cahoots with the Prickly Pear Posse. Having Natalie down there with Cooper was a lot of fun because I finally got to be outside of Violet's head and in Natalie. So I had a great time with that. So there will be more crossovers. There will be more to come. And as we're mixing it all up in this one big crazy world. Did I don't know if I hit everybody's questions, and I hope I did. You talking about the Hessler House trauma reminded me, do we find out what Doc whispers to Violet after he saved her? That's Rebecca. We have never found that out. Not yet. I shouldn't say never. We have not yet found that out. I have some ideas of what that is. And I think I know what that is because it's been a while, but yeah, he's a sweetheart. That's all I'm going to say for now, but stay tuned. We'll keep having fun, and maybe that'll come out. Is Quint going to help Violet? That's Sharon. I'm not going to go into that yet, Sharon. I love the question, but we're only talking about Deadwood 1 and 2 right now, so I don't want to get into the whole world of stuff. As we keep going, we can explore that more. Eventually, we'll probably have a book club about Quint's books as we keep going. But for right now, we're just doing 1 and 2, so hold on to that question, Sharon, and we can come back to it in a future one. The Deadwood books your favorite to write? That's from Kimberly. I don't know. You know, every time I'm in a story world, those books are my favorite to write when I'm in there. I can honestly say that. Right now, I love Deadwood. I'm having so much fun. And Violet is one of the easiest characters for me to write. And I think that's because it's first person, and I'm so close in there with her that it's easy for stuff to come out. When I switch to third person, which is like Claire said this and Kate said this and she said, he said, then that's a little bit more, you pulled back a little bit more, and I feel that distance some. But once I get going in the Morgan sisters world, I'm having a blast because those girls are crazy, especially Kate right now. So Violet is one of the easier characters for me to write, and she is a lot of fun. But what I like doing changes with each. I'm always sad at the end of a series or a book. I'm always a little depressed to leave them, but I always tell myself, no, they're just hitting pause for right now. I'm going to stand around the green room and hang out while I do this other stuff, so that I don't, feel like I'm going away so much. Oh, are the Deadwood books your favorite? So I think I might have gotten them all. I'm trying to get everybody. The twins seem to be an important detail in the executioner line. When can we hope to find out more about the importance of the twins? And that's from Barbara. Barbara, we keep doing that as the series goes, but I'll be honest, there's that Ray Romano show. I can't think of what it was called. He had the big comedy. And in the beginning of it, every intro, they always said, it's not about the kids. that's kind of how I feel about Deadwood. It's not about the kids. The kids are a part, and they play an important part. They're the future. But this is not about those kids. This is not about Lane and Addie. This is about Violet and what she has to go through and the experiences and how she grows and changes and how she has to protect them so that she keeps the future alive. So there will be more with the kids, but I don't know that I'll go heavily into the children in this particular series. You know, I like to have the opportunity in the future maybe that I could write a series about Lane and Addie as adults and what's going on. I think that would be a lot of fun to explore the future and what they're dealing with, and have Violet and, you know, Doc and others in there, of course. But right now, we're just really in the thick of Violet's world. But that's a really good question. I think I've been keeping up with what's going on here. Do I think Violet is a good realtor? I don't know. A realtor should answer that question for me and tell me if Violet is. I don't know that she's the best. She's a little distracted. She's a lot distracted. And she gets emotionally involved, so that's a problem. What's my favorite genre of books to read? From Dawn. Oh, wow. I'm all over the board. I like some romance. I like Westerns. I like, you know, horror, Stephen King of old. I like humor. I really love to have humor in a story that makes me laugh and forget about what's going on out there in the world. So that's good. So it's a real big mix, Dawn. I don't have one specific genre, and I don't really read straight on crime mystery because that's just not my cup of tea. I'll watch shows when they come on the TV and, you know, go, oh, what happened? But I won't read those books. Do you laugh as you write? Do you laugh as you type the N for now? Knowing some of us scream, no, that's from Heather. That would make me evil, Heather. But I do smile. But then I know more is coming. But I think certain people are going to curse me. A lot of times when I write that, I'm thinking of the first draft crew. And I can't wait until they get back to me when they finally finish, and then they yell at me, and it makes me chuckle. My mom, I always laugh if I know I'm going to make her scream or I always laugh and wait for her to write to me because she's very expressive in her email and her texts. And a lot of times she doesn't even care if she spells the words right anymore. She's just and hitting send. And then I laugh. I call her laughing. So, all right, you guys. So we've been on about 3 hours and 20 minutes, and we've had a shot. And I should probably start wrapping it up on these 2 books. You guys have been awesome. You've had some amazing questions, and I appreciate that. And I hope I answered all of you. And if I missed one of your questions, I'm sorry. Trying to keep up is a little bit, I'm not the best at that. But you can always write me. Like I said, send me a private Facebook message, and I'll try to answer it when I have a moment. And I'm going to, this afternoon, put out quiz 3. The Deadwood Quiz 3 for Dead Case in Deadwood. So I'll put that out on my Facebook and Instagram and get it out there so you guys can take the quiz, or you can read the book first, whatever you want to do. And then this week I'll also put out quiz 4. Diane has it done, and I need to go through and do my part. So we'll put out quiz 4, and that will be on Better Off Dead in Deadwood. Better Off Dead. Yes, sorry, I had to think about that one. The wed always gets me. Otherwise, I'm thinking next weekend we'll do this again. If you guys are going to be home, you probably will. Me too. But we will do either just book 3, or we'll do book 3 and 4. I'm leaning towards doing 2 more books, 3 and 4, because that way it gives us a lot of room to talk about instead of just one single book. But we can talk about 3 and 4. So if you want to take the time ahead of time to read books 3 and 4, we can, and bring your questions next weekend. We can do that, or you could come in and just wing it and see what happens. But please feel free to join us. Now I haven't decided if I'm doing 1 book club or 2. This 2 has worked pretty well. We've had about the same amount of people each day, and I know you guys are, you know, everybody has a life, even in spite of being stuck inside most of it. But I'll probably put feelers out in the next couple days and say which day works for you guys and see what we get. And then I'll let you know. But we'll be back here, same location, Facebook author page, going live again. You can bring your questions, and we'll do this again. And we'll talk about the next couple books, which They are Dead Case and Deadwood. I mean, come on. We start out with a decapitated guy on the table at Mutter Brothers. How fun is that? And then Better Off Dead. We start off. Well, I'm not gonna say what we start off because then I might ruin it if somebody's not read it. So I will wait for that. However, thank you all for coming. Thanks for reading these books and coming up with such wonderful questions. Thanks for hanging out on a Sunday afternoon. And I hope you have a wonderful evening and rest of the week until I talk to you next time. Try to stay calm and stay safe. And I'm not going to tell you to wash your hands, because if you haven't heard that by now, your head's in the sand. I love to touch my face, so try not to touch yours, because apparently I'm going to be touching mine all the time and spreading my face germs. And that's about all I have for now. So thank you all, and I'm going to count down to say goodbye, and then I'll go off, and any questions you ask or comments will show up because I'll save the video and you can watch it again later if you're really stinking bored. Anyway, thanks for coming, and I will see you later.